Good evening. I hope everybody's fine this evening. I'm going to check the Facebook page and make sure everything is going smoothly. In the meantime, welcome to the candidate forum for the town of North Elba Supervisor's race. I'm your host, Andy Flynn, editor of the Lake Placid News, which is sponsoring this event. And I'm monitoring. I'm a tech guy of one, and it looks like it's going. There's a little delay from where we are talking with the two candidates and what's going on in Facebook land. So just to remind you, like the candidate forums we held in March for the village elections, this forum is being held virtually, basically due to concerns over COVID-19 and the spread of the Delta variant. So welcome to everyone watching from their computers or their mobile devices or wherever you're watching from. So we have 3 races in the town of North Elba this year. We have an unopposed race for 2 town council seats. Candidates are Jason Leon, he's a village trustee right now, and Rick Preston, he's a member of the Lake Placid Central School Board of Education. And there's one unopposed race for the town justice, that's incumbent Dean Dietrich. He's running for re-election. And everybody's fine this evening. Yeah, it's going, sorry. And we also have 2 candidates for the supervisor's position, and that's the purpose of this forum, to meet our 2 candidates. Derek Doty, our Democrat and town councilor since 2003. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you, Andy.
Did I get that right? 2003, you've been a town councilor?
Yes, sir.
And Jay Rand, Republican supervisor for the past 2 years, previously a councilor for 32 years. Did I get that right, Jay?
You got it right.
Goodness, good evening.
All 32.
Since what, 1987, the second Reagan administration. So there's a lot of experience going on here. So thanks for joining me. I want to go over the rules of this forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. There will be 7 questions, all chosen by the newspaper staff. That's me, and not revealed. That's very clear. Not revealed to the candidates ahead of time. These are surprises to these guys. Some of the questions were suggested by staff at the Adirondack Daily Enterprise, our sister newspaper in Saranac Lake. Managing editor Elizabeth Izzo and staff writer Lauren Yates helped with these. Also, voters on the Lake Placid Community Forum Facebook page. Special thanks to Jason McCumber for sharing these questions and for encouraging the candidates to participate in this forum. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And for rebuttal, if a candidate is accused of something, he has 1 minute to respond. Candidates will speak in alphabetical order at first and then alternate back and forth. That means Mr. Doty goes first. This forum should last about 1 hour. So let's get started. First of all, we have opening statements, and Mr. Doty, Mr. Derek Doty will go first.
Well, good evening. Again, thank you, Andy, for hosting this. It took a while to get it going, I realize. But in the end, I hope our answers tonight will satisfy, hopefully, the majority of viewers. Probably an opening, I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity of serving North Elba since 2003. And a reason for my running really boils down to just passion. I come from a family that has been known for community service for years and years, whether it was our little local meat market, helping not-for-profits, food pantries, churches, things of the like. From there, I moved on to a term out in the town of Franklin where I lived. Then it became working for the Civic Center, coaching for Pee Wee hockey, serving on both St. Bernard's and Saranac Lake School District, helping with the fundraising campaign for our local hospital. Then 2003, I was elected town of North Elba. And ever since then, I remained dedicated and a workaholic and putting my best foot forward and helping with directives that help the sustainability and our economic impact of the town as a whole, whether it be through wise use of grants to put in irrigation at the lacrosse fields, whether it be saving up to $500,000 by renovating Craigwood instead of building a new building. Anyway, my point is, I'm dedicated to a fault, and I vow to continue serving North Elba in the same vein moving forward. Thank you.
Yep, I muted myself. Jay, it's your turn.
Okay, good evening, and a special thanks to you, Andy, editor of Lake Placid News, and all of your staff for hosting this 2021 Town of North Elba Supervisor Forum. Thanks also to all of you who are presently online to observe this presentation. For those of you who may not know me, I am a native of Lake Placid, married 44 years, 3 daughters, 7 grandchildren. I attended St. Agnes and Northwood School locally and went to graduate from the University of Colorado. During those years, I participated as a member of the Colorado NCAA championship team and the U.S. national ski jumping team, including Olympic and world competitions. Upon returning to Lake Placid, I worked for the Lake Placid Olympic Organizing Committee and continued on with ORDA for over 30 years as a general manager of 3 Olympic venues. Following this, I served as the executive director of NICEF for an additional 7 years, fully committed to the area for sure. During this time, I was elected to the town board as a councilman in 1988 and have served in this position for over 30 years, 8 consecutive terms. I have been supervisor for the last 2 years and am enthusiastically running again to continue with the many issues and projects that I have been involved with, including a number of assignments as a member of the Essex County Board of Supervisors, which include chairing the Recruitment and Retention Committee and being assigned to the union negotiation team. Certainly, it is vital these days of uncertainty to be as forthright and transparent as possible, and I assure you that this is the manner in which I will respond to questions this evening and otherwise. Transparency has gained new meaning in government these days, as lack of confidence and mistrust in government policies and officials is seemingly at an all-time high. One of the strengths of a small town government, such as the town of North Elba, is that town officials are mostly well-known and accessible on a daily basis, either by phone or in the town hall offices. Meetings are advertised as required and now are live on Zoom and available to anybody with a computer. I have enjoyed serving the community over the past 3 decades as a town board member and for the past 2 years as supervisor. I will do my best to respond to the forum questions tonight as honestly and knowledgeable as possible. I am truly pleased and honored to have this opportunity to participate in this forum. Thank you.
Here I go again. I'm trying to unmute myself so I don't make too much noise for you. Trying to juggle all this. I have someone in the waiting room. I'm thinking that, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you before, but the Lake Placid Community Forum Facebook page, we got a lot of questions from them. So, Jason McCumber, you guys know Jason?
I've spoken with Jason, yes.
Yeah. There are a couple questions that I thought would be neat for him, since his the voters on that page basically gave a lot of feedback. So would be okay for him to ask a few questions?
Sure.
Okay. I have someone in the waiting room, and let's see if it's him. It just says iPhone. I'm not sure. Let's find out. Okay, well, that didn't work out. I don't know who that was. Nobody else really has the invite, so, let's go on. Guys, do me a favor, if you're not speaking, just press mute for me. Right now, I'm seeing Derek and I'm the one talking, so.
You want me to mute?
Yes, if both of you can mute. Okay. All right, I don't know why it's showing me. All right. So can you guys see me or you guys see Derek?
I can see you.
Okay, maybe it's just the way this is going. So question number one, a lot of people are asking about the candidate forum itself, and people are asking me why it's being held after early voting started on Saturday. I just want to give a background. In middle of September, I called both candidates, and Jay, you at first you declined, but then a month later I got a text from you saying, yeah, I'll do it. So that may have delayed it, but people want to know, Jay, why you initially declined the invitation for the candidate forum, and why did you change your mind?
Sure. Well, Derek and I, first of all, work closely together on many of the same issues. I've been extremely busy with county, et cetera, and I just felt that this would be a bit of a repetition. We were interviewed by one of your staff members. We're accessible all the time. I mean, I get calls constantly. So, and about, let's see, 2 years ago too, we also did this, and I thought it was good, and it was just basically, I thought that there would be a lot of repetition, and really, not sure of the value, but I'm certainly pleased to be part of it. A few people asked me to do it, and I said, oh, sure. I have no problem with doing it. I just I thought at the time I had better things to do with my time between all of the issues that we have here at the town and the county. Simple as that.
Okay, Derek, my question for you is, why is it important for you to participate in this forum?
Well, as Jay was mentioning before, transparency is a big issue. And believe it or not, as we've talked in the past, we felt we knew every other person on the street. Lots of new folks in the area, a lot of young blood getting interested, and the social media aspect has people geared up to find out what's going on. So certainly making yourself available is something I've always done, and always willing to answer a question to the best of my ability. So I'll always be there when somebody needs to know my take on an issue.
All right, well, question number two has to do with short-term rentals and the law, that there's a town village short-term rental law. Maybe sometimes you get sick about talking about short-term rentals, but it's on the minds of a lot of people, especially inside the village. But there's a lot of rentals outside the village in the town itself. So there are many questions, many concerns from voters, including, what's the enforcement like for the short-term rental regulation? Are they enforcing occupancy limits? Maybe we should just completely overhaul the permit system. So my question is, when the short-term rental law was approved, it was supposed to be a starting point and maybe tweaked as time goes on, depending on how it's going. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, and Derek goes first here, how sufficient is the law in your view? And are there any changes you'd like to see made to it?
Well, Andy, I am sure short-term rentals would rise to the top in tonight's discussion of issues. To directly respond, I believe the first wave of the law succeeded on 90% of its goals: to look after occupancy, to look after parking, to look after garbage, to look after caretaking, to look after a permit fee so that we could monitor lots of things. However, there are items in the short-term rental law that aren't working. And believe it or not, our code enforcement officer, Mike Orticelli, actually warned us at the onset of this law that enforcement of days rented would be almost impossible to prove and to enforce because of that proof. Since then, you know, we've raised occupancy tax by 2%. So we do have an avenue to look at the county on short-term rentals and what they pay to occupancy tax. We do have calendars that Airbnb, VRBO, all the renting agencies have that allow us to look at occupancy. However, there are many ways around it, and the answer still lies in the village and the town moving forward with amendments to the law. And basically it means this: the core issues that bother most locals are happening within the village. In other words, saving neighborhoods, limiting the number of short-term rentals, and so on. And I personally have never stuck my nose into the village aspect of that. That's their business. However, because we are a joint land use code, we needed to come up with this initial law that both could live with. Hence the village having 90 days a year rental and the town outside of the village adhering to 120 days. Many things have changed in the last couple of years. One of them would be with identifying places that STRs actually fit and places that want to be saved for neighborhoods. So we need to find an amendment process to help with all those answers. And again, that probably won't be an overnight venture, as we are waiting for a current lawsuit to come to an end so that town and village can start amending the law. We've been advised by legal counsel not to move forward until the current lawsuit is over. And early estimates recently suggest that in 6 to 8 months, that should come to an end.
Okay, Jay, how sufficient is the short-term rental law, and are there any changes you'd like to see made to it?
Well, you know, I think the law in itself, based on a lot of the safety issues and just getting things under control, it came up, in my opinion, very quickly a few years back. And basically, I wasn't even fully aware what a short-term rental was until it was defined. And the occupancy at the county has occupancy tax revenues have increased greatly. They're very pleased with it. I think, you know, we've gotten a good start, at least on getting things that were totally out of hand. People parking everywhere, the tents on the lawns with people going into the apartments, and just it was out of control. So I think basically that it's a good first step. Obviously, it's a law that I think, you know, will have to be massaged. I think it was a good decision to at the end put another stipulation in there where the village had, if it was just affected in the village, they could make a law that was separate from the town. In other words, they didn't have to be combined as we started out to be, and the same with the town of North Elba. I think there's a lot of good that's come about from it, and that it's helped stabilize the safety aspect. It's easier now to, if somebody comes and asks a question, it's easier to answer it with some facts. And as we go along here, I think definitely that, you know, there'll be areas where we're going to want to change it and update it. But we had a number of public hearings on this, and certainly there was an awful lot of input from the public both ways. It was very controversial. Either people really wanted it or they didn't. So it made it very difficult. But again, I think it was a good start and something we had to do. And I think that I'm proud of the fact that we did do something with both the town and the village, and hope in the future to keep working on improving it as we go along.
Okay. So question number 3. This has to do with the Regional Office of Sustainable Tourism. And this question came from the Lake Placid Community Forum Facebook page. This is a direct question. It appears that Roost holds an inordinate sway over public policy in the town of North Elba. What changes would you implement to ensure public policy decisions are made by elected officials only?
Is that me first?
And that's for Jay. Yes.
Okay. I've worked with Roost constantly, you know, through COVID-19 issues and event-related issues, and I think they've done a great job in helping to orchestrate events. For example, we've got Ironman right now. They're doing a survey to try and really coordinate with the public, and I think that's very healthy. There's a lot of different opinions on Ironman, and in the end, I think, you know, well, because of what Roost is doing, we'll have a much better answer for the public and to see where we go in the future. It's the same with lacrosse. We've got a good comprehensive group, I think, and it's not just being dictated by Roost. I think, you know, we're all the town, the village, Roost. As we go forward here, especially with the games coming on, 2023 games, we need to have a good team. And personally, I don't feel like Roost is dictating anything to us. I think they're a good partner, and we work well together. And now we have the FISU committee as well, ORDA. At our workshops, that's one of the things that we've been doing. We have once a month, Roost participates, the FISU Games Committee participates, and the town, and of course, is involved. And I think as we go forward, it's a huge event coming at us, and we need to be coordinated and not just feel that one entity is dictating the other. So from my perspective is that we've got a great relationship with Roost, and it's important that we all work together.
Okay, I just want to interject here. There was a comment on Facebook saying that Roost stands for Regional Office of Sustainable Tourism. I thought that's what I said. If I didn't, I apologize. So the question is to you, Derek, over Roost. What changes would you implement to ensure public policy decisions are made by elected officials only?
Well, certainly, I don't really agree with the public policy aspect that Roost changes them. And we do have a good working relationship. However, I have differing opinions in that personally, I'd like Roost to come to us as a whole town board more often. And one particular instance is recently when Ironman was granted 1 year more to run. Unbeknownst to me, an article came out in the paper that outlined that the town and village boards approved a 1-year extension. Unfortunately, that is not true. Now, it doesn't mean we wouldn't have all voted the same way, but I would have liked the opportunity to share my opinion, and it would go like this. Because there is a destination management plan underway, and we currently know that it's lagging behind because of a very busy summer, and for a lot of reasons justifiable to Roost, a full report from the survey and what they find on whether to move events different dates, to eliminate them, to replace them with a certain kind of tourism. I remain a strong advocate for our large events, and really was hoping for a little bit longer lenience in the Ironman contract. So if anything, I've relayed my feelings to Mary Jane and Jim and just said, listen, I consider myself a player and I'd like to be heard. I don't like to read that the town board as a whole made that decision when it isn't the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Let's see. Question number 4 has to deal with the future of local government. So we've all talked about this. It was alluded to earlier in this forum that it's tough to get younger residents interested in local politics. There's some standouts, Jason Leon and the village board. He's fairly young. Colin Hayes ran for village board this in March, and he's fairly young and brings a young perspective. Dan Cash is on the Lake Placid School Board, fairly young, and so there are some people in our community, but if we don't attract younger folks into this business, local politics, elected officials, I wonder what the future of local government is. So that's my question to you. And first, this will go to Derek first. How important is it to get the younger generations interested in running for local elected positions? Specifically, how can you be part of the solution, encouraging the next generation to step up and get involved? You're still muted.
Sorry about that. I guess it was my turn to screw up. Anyway, of course, I look forward to young people stepping up. And it's not that they don't want to step up, but you have to understand that it takes a special person that becomes case hardened and can leave themselves exposed to ridicule, to judgment. Neither Jay or myself can please everybody every day. So it takes a special person to, lots of people would like to serve, but it takes a special person to be able to take the pressures of being in government. Because as you know, I mean, we live in a country divided right now, and government really isn't looked on that well. We are fortunate in our small town that regardless of our differences, we always get it done. So in that vein, I'm very proud of things, and certainly I continue to hope young people will step up. There are some bright faces that show some talent that hopefully will come around and stay in the process. Thank you.
I also forgot to mention Emily Politi on the town board. She's very active and is a shining star in local government. So again, for you, Jay, how important is it to get the younger generations interested in running for local elected positions, and specifically, how can you be part of the solution, encouraging the next generation?
I think it's extremely important to have younger people take part in government. It's not only a problem right now, I think, in government, but if you look at the civic organizations, for example, it's very difficult to get younger people motivated and to come in. I think a lot of it is because they simply don't have the time. They're funding, trying to make a living, establish themselves, and I think there's a lot of challenges and issues that as we go along need to be resolved. And in terms of, for example, just affordable housing, a lot of the people that are waitresses and waiters here come all the way from Malone because there's not affordable housing here, and that's something that we have been working on, and I think is real important. So basically, I just think that it's not just a matter of getting people interested, but we need to provide the assets that enable people to work comfortably, make a living, so that they can take a look at things like being a town board member or sometime run for supervisor. But it's very important, and I think we should do everything possible to make it available and well known a lot of times I think people just don't know how to become a town board member or have the confidence to do it. So it's not only providing assets, but also providing incentive and encouraging people. So definitely we need to continue to work on it because younger people are the future of this country, and we need to make sure that they're motivated and have the opportunity to become government officials.
All right, thank you. So this next question has to deal with leadership style. I know you guys both have been in local government for a while, town government, but maybe you have different leadership styles. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, and Jay, this is for you first. What type of leader are you? Are you proactive or are you reactive? What's your process in dealing with tough issues?
Well, we all like to think that we're proactive. There's a lot of issues that come up that we basically may not have control over. We get a lot of state mandates, for example, and there's a lot of things that come to us. I mean, during the COVID era, we had a lot of different issues that came through the state to the county to me, and then getting them distributed as well as possible. I think I'm a leader that definitely depends on my people within the organization. For example, when I was at Whiteface, we had I think 15 different departments with over 400, 500 people at times, and you can't be everywhere, so you have to choose good people to run the departments and depend on their expertise. I think communication is very important with them on a daily basis, but there's in certain positions, there's just no way that you can be everywhere. So you have to have a good team. So I'd say, if anything, I'm a good team leader, and that's the way that I prefer to run an operation. Even with the town, there's a lot of different departments and a lot of different areas that you have to cover. And not only did I, for the past 2 years, depend on my staff, but also the board members who are assigned to different areas of responsibility. For example, the airport is one, the cemetery is another, the park district is another. So there's an awful lot of things going that just from the outside you may not see. And again, team leadership is my forte.
Okay, Derek, what type of leader are you? Are you consider yourself proactive or reactive? What's your process in dealing with tough issues?
Well, certainly I can say with full confidence that I am definitely proactive. And I'm sure there will be major differences on how I decide to run the town if elected over the way Jay does. And certainly not throwing stones at Jay, but I would prefer to spend at least half of my time in the field, in the departments, like I currently do at highway, at park district, at cemetery, at airport, working with our town employees on a minimum weekly basis, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, to address concerns, which gives them a closer feeling to the administration. Certainly, I don't have the experience Jay does behind a desk, so that part would be new to me. But I do recognize the very high importance that our town employees put on having direct contact with the board as a whole. And I believe that's one thing I can improve on if I'm elected supervisor.
I'm not sure if, Jay, do you need a rebuttal for that or?
No, I think, there's certainly a happy medium. I don't think, Derek, unless you sit right here, you just don't realize how many things do come at you in a day, plus the county responsibilities, which are multiple, especially with the number of employees and departments and issues that they have there. It's very time consuming. And I think, again, I will go back to the fact that I think it's important too, you've got to be out there and know what's going on, which I do in every department, but you still have to depend on the people. You can't be there every day. And I think, Derek, if you're the person that sits here, you're going to find that out as well.
Derek?
Can I react to
Yeah.
county portion of that?
Sure.
Certainly on, on the county level, I will look to bring, I'm going to say, a more profound presence at the county level. A couple things that I think could have been done different is that I was basically embarrassed at the county response to a 2-year replacement of a small little culvert bridge over the old Raybrook Road. It took them forever to fix that, with hundreds of employees trying to get to the 2 prisons with only one entrance into that. Along with that, well, I don't know if there'll be other questions about the county, so maybe I should wait there. So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder before we go to the next question that this is Andy Flynn, editor of the Lake Placid News. We are currently watching the candidate forum for Town of North Elba Supervisor's race with 2 candidates, Town Councilor Derek Doty and Supervisor Jay Rand. So the next question comes from the Lake Placid Community Forum Facebook page, and it has to do with the old hospital, which is on Church Street, and part of it's there and a lot of it's not there anymore because ORDA is the Olympic Regional Development Authority is building an administration building there on the site. So the ORDA, the town owns the property still, and I believe this is a lease situation with the town. So the questions, and there were a couple of questions, but basically the same thing. Why, and this goes to Derek first, why was the deal involving the town-owned hospital property made so quickly with ORDA and with little to no public input? Why did the town give the hospital to ORDA when it could have been used for a lot of other things for people in town?
That is a multifaceted question, Andy, that it gets a little more complicated and not as simple as the question sounds. It really wasn't an overnight decision, even though much of the public thinks it was. But there was a little confusion along the way. We had considered sale of that back when Roby was in, and just before he left, there was actual decision for the property to turn over to ORDA. However, things that hadn't been covered were how much of the property would go to the, how much of the hospital property would go to ORDA, whether it would be the whole lot or partial. So we had considerable discussions about the possibility of the town retaining some of that property. Ultimately, it just couldn't happen. Financially was one of the reasons. In excess of $2 million to take care of that building wasn't in the cards for the town to hold. And I did my damnedest to come up with ways for us to demolish the building and save money, and even an effort with a few of us board members in hopes of trying to retain a small portion of the property for maybe an integrated use that could help the community, such as maybe a daycare center or something like that. But as plans move forward with ORDA to reposition the new office building with relation to the old one and demo going on at the same time, it became evident that there was just no way to share property. Even though that's what I preferred, it wasn't meant to be. So I was disappointed, but that's the way it came about.
Jay?
Well, again, the expense of taking the hospital down was enormous, and even more recently, more asbestos was found. Prices increased on getting rid of it, and it would have, in my opinion, been just too much for the town of North Elba to handle. It would be sitting there unused for the next 50 years if it hadn't been for Orta's the opportunity to have Orta take it down, which was very timely. It is in a property that's right between the United States Olympic Training Center and the USA Luge. It's kind of an ideal situation to have the property as a place where it could be expanded, the training center could be expanded, and that's something that was presented to our board. Derek was there, I was there, and the rest of the board, and it made good sense. And right now, Orta staff and other federations that we're probably going to pick up here, including USA Jumping, because of all the improvements that are going on at the venues, with having a centralized office building, it'll free up a lot of space, like at the arena for more public use, etc. So I think, we did look at trying to come up with using the property in any way we could, but I think ultimately the right decision was made for our town. It would have been impossible for the town of North Elba to incur the expense to take that down, and it was in such a state that it really couldn't be used for anything or renovated in a way that would make sense. So I think all in all, the right decision was made, and it gives future expansion for the training center. And with everything going on right now, all the improvements to our venues, which thank God are happening. Our venues are 40 years old, and they're right now the improvements to the Olympic Sports Complex with the bobsled, luge, cross country, and biathlon. I've seen a lot of stadiums all over the world, and that is unparalleled in terms of biathlon station, and now for public too, snowmaking, etc. Ski jumps are going to be second to none. The U.S. team is going to move back here, so it all fits into a program where the use of the hospital and the training center and other federations, it all is a great project, and we did look into every possibility, but ultimately I think the right decision was made.
This is our final question, believe it or not, before closing statements. And I think it's an important one because it's about making important decisions before a vote. I was working Friday evening, Friday at the Adirondack Daily Enterprise office, helping put the paper together for the Saturday issue as part of my duties with the Lake Placid News. And we received a press release. So the Friday before this year's Ironman race, we got an announcement in a press release that the Ironman contract would be extended for 1 year. Yet the town board had not passed a resolution approving the supervisor to sign the contract. So when asked about the contract extension on that day, Jay, you said, quote, speaking for all of, and this is parentheses, all of the town council, I do believe that we were all on the same page about extending it 1 year. So this is what I'm calling this the cart before the horse approach to decision making. And it wasn't just the town, it was the village, but we're talking about the town now. you announce the approval of an action before the town board votes to approve it. I'm just wondering, and it just boggles my mind that that can happen. So my question is, is this how local government should function? And is this how you plan to operate the town of North Elba for the next 2 years?
I think that decision, it just came about so quickly, and I'm just trying to recall everything that happened, but we definitely, from my perspective, I thought we were all on the same page. I was trying to get a hold of people that weekend, and honestly, I didn't expect it to go out as quick as it did. And so obviously like to stay ahead of things better, for sure. But in that case, everything was pushed forward so quickly that I think we didn't communicate as well as we should have, for sure.
Derek, what is your take as the town councilor on that?
Well, certainly I was more than disappointed because, as anyone that knows me knows, I always like to get my 2 cents in on any decision that we make as a board. And I think it worth mentioning that a supervisor, any supervisor, whether it's Jay, myself, if it's Roby, that supervisor has no more power than every other person on the board. So it is vitally important that everyone gets their say in something as important, certainly as an Ironman community race that brings millions to this community and helps with the economic impact. It has been for, I don't know, 29 years, 27 years. So that's something that really can't continue to happen. We all need to be involved on major decisions like that.
Yeah, and again, I think Bruce probably jumped the gun a little bit on the timing of it. I can't think of another instance where the town board really hasn't coordinated on decisions, and I think we do our best either by phone or at meetings to coordinate. And I can't tell you how many times I've called town board members to get their opinions on something, and I think you'd have to agree on that, Derek. And we certainly make every effort to act as a board, and I truly believe that that's what has to be done.
Derek, you're muted. Sorry to let you know.
In a rebuttal, as far as board not being brought into decisions, we do have another incident within the last year or so where a personnel item, a person was hired without the town board having transparency to hire that person. I won't bring up names or anything, but that is another reason for transparency in hiring practices. And if Jay wants to address it, that's fine. That's as far as I want to take it. But there are at least a couple incidents where the board was left out.
Honestly,
Okay.
Derek, I don't know who you're referring to, but we can talk about it if you want, or we can leave it for another time. I'm not sure who you're referring to.
It wouldn't be fair to bring a name, but certainly I can. And I'm sure you're aware of it, Jay. Anyway, that's the 2 incidents I'm referring to. Well, I will bring it up, and it was a lake patrol position that the board had no input on, no interview basis, no report on interviews. And it doesn't mean we wouldn't have come to the same decision, but it was an issue where the board was left out.
I have no further comment on it.
Okay.
We had an entire committee that was was working on that. I don't recall all the circumstances, but certainly if he was hired, it was with the knowledge of the board.
Okay. I'm going to move on. Actually, we were going to go to closing statements. Thanks for answering that question. We did have another question come over Facebook, and it is one of those things we've reported on extensively, is the cannabis law. And people want you to reiterate your stance on the cannabis law. So Derek, you go first, and then Jay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's our hot topic for the moment. And of course, I'm going to assume everyone knows the law will allow us to opt out of both dispensaries and or consumption sites. I was part of quite a few of elected officials, Jay included, that went to a sponsored event at the high school to address cannabis, the new laws and so forth, and its incidents on students, if you will. Ironically enough, I left the meeting with the impression that dispensaries in a regulated environment, to me personally, are the way to go to help curb usage in youth. The reasons are numerous, but probably the most prevalent is that just the cost of cannabis at a dispensary is unaffordable for most. I love the idea of a regulated market. I look for improvements so that law enforcement has a way to detect usage down the road. So as far as dispensaries go, I am in favor of dispensaries. As far as consumption bars, I'm afraid I don't accept that yet, and I would opt out of that particular aspect of the new cannabis law. So I think that wraps up my opinion pretty quickly.
Okay, Jay.
Well, I think that the right thing to do is to opt out at this point, because the board can opt in at any time, but we have one opportunity to opt out, and that would give us an opportunity to see how it's going to go as the whole thing moves along. There's an awful lot of unknown still, and another aspect of opting out is that you would provide the public with a chance to submit for a permissive referendum, which could bring it to a vote for the whole community, and take it out of the hands of just a few town board members. And I think, you know, in most cases, I would say that the town board should be totally responsible for making decisions based on community input. But I think this is something that really should be brought to the whole community. I know that because there's an awful lot of different opinions out there and a lot of uncertainties. And my personal opinion, and as you know, I've been very vocal about sharing my opinion, and really I don't want to see it as part of Lake Placid. People come here for sports, they come here for fresh air, and the effect that it has on kids, it just provides another obstacle that younger people really don't need in front of them. And but to put it before the entire township here for votes, I think is the right way to go.
I was muted. So, so guys, Jay, Derek, that's it for the questions. We have a lot of issues in town. People may not think so, but there is a lot, and we just touched the surface. So maybe if you have some more to say, I'll we'll start with the closing statements, and I guess, Jay, you go first.
Okay, well, again, thank you, Andy, and your staff for putting this on, and for those who have participated tonight. I'm honored to have gained and held the trust of the citizens of North Elba since 1988, over a period of 34 years as a board member and supervisor for the past 2 years. As general manager of Olympic Facilities and the NICEP director, I have always felt that I was in a good position to contribute to board decisions, and still am confident of doing so for the next couple of years. One attribute I have is a good understanding of the past, present, and a vision of what is important for the future direction of our community. Never in my lifetime have I seen so many construction projects and taking place, and enabling us to move forward in a positive direction for years to come, both within our village and at our Olympic facilities. 40-year-old facilities are getting a facelift that was long overdue. 100-year-old sewer water lines beneath Main Street are being redone. Construction projects include new hotels, the refurbishment of others, as well as new affordable housing prospects. In spite of COVID-19, tourism continues to flourish, but businesses have struggled to maintain appropriate staff, and many have had to reduce days, hours, and find creative ways to meet constantly changing mandates. The interest in our community and rural areas continues to grow in terms of real estate and events. I'm told people are buying properties here that they haven't even seen. I've quickly learned that being on the town board as a councilman is much different and more time consuming than being supervisor. You may know the positions, the supervisor position is a 2-year term, and councilmen are 4-year terms. I think that's something that really has to be looked at in the future too, because it's just not enough time, I think, to really get comfortable with the position and to learn everything both at the county level and within the town. As mentioned, I've been appointed to a number of committees, and I've been meeting with each department head to understand their needs and responsibility. This alone takes numerous hours to really get a good feel just for the county, which, as I mentioned, is a big part of being a supervisor as well. Simply put, 2-year terms not adequate to digest all that needs to be accomplished. I was extremely excited to be a part of the original Lake Placid team that went to Almaty, Kazakhstan to observe the World University Games. And we determined it's a good fit for Lake Placid, and that's what's really fueling a lot of all the upgrades here. And I also went with a team led by Jim McKenna to work out a bid process with the FISU committee in charge of awarding the games. During these visits, which I really enjoyed, I have to admit, I met a number of officials and past competitors of my era that were thrilled by the prospects of coming to the games in Lake Placid. I remain extremely motivated and hopeful of continuing as supervisor for another term to pursue many town and county projects that I have been involved with, and welcome the FISU teams for the 2023 World Games. I will continue to work hard and serve the community well, while maintaining a balance that fits our community needs. My priorities and stands will be to promote good health and assure the well-being of our North Elba citizens, maintain and improve our quality of life in our neighborhood for our residents and children, protect our environment and water quality, promote affordable housing for longtime and future residents, support our first responders and public safety officials, work closely with school district and educators, maintain North Elba's important role with Essex County Board of Supervisors, work with participating entities to assure successful 2023 World University Games in a balanced tourism and event-related community. Once again, thank you all who have supported me through my political career. Again, I'll continue to work hard for the community if I'm elected as supervisor, and have all the energy stored up and ready to go. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jay. Derek Doty, closing remarks.
Well, certainly like Jay, I've appreciated all these years working for the town of North Elba. Moving forward, I certainly know all those that know me know that they'll get a dedicated workaholic that will keep things moving at a pace where things don't come on and off the agenda, where many issues that are on the rise right now will be tackled. Housing, as we've both mentioned, healthcare, the crisis locally for attracting doctors and healthcare workers. Working continued perseverance with the New York State Department of Corrections to bring an expanded water system to the Raybrook area, along with a new storage tank, which will give the area not only new revenue, but sustainability for a different area of North Elba for future development. Certainly continued attention to the STRs. We talked about that tonight. Maintaining our town buildings. We have extensive work that will be coming up and be needed to help the town garage that houses not only the school system, the buses, but the village crews and the town crews. That will be a pretty big nut to crack within a year or so. To continue monitoring the airport, our current lease with Steve Short is up in Maine. Whether he continues to stay or we try to attract a new FOB manager to the airport is critical to this area. In moving forward with government, I look to assess all of our current leases and MOUs with the village, memorandums of understanding. The village of Lake Placid and the town of North Elba have, in the eyes of the state, one of the most successful shared responsibilities and work together over anywhere else in New York State. I'm proud of that. However, there are areas where I feel we need to assess and bring them up to date. I look to reassess the Orta lease. It hasn't really been looked at since 1994. And in 94, it was only the first time since its inception in, I think, 1978 or 79. Doesn't mean there's problems. It means I'd like to look at things, make sure town of North Elba residents are protected and our ongoing relationship with Orta is strong. We've discussed the cannabis law. We've discussed the destination management with Roost. And like Jay, I look for that balance between events and tourism in a stable economic impact that keeps North Elba healthy for a long, long time. So anyway, a vote for me means you've got somebody that hits the ground running and is in gear every day. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, guys. Two candidates for North Elba Town Supervisor, Derek Doty and Jay Rand. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you again.
And just a reminder, the coverage of this forum will be written by staff writer Lauren Yates, and that'll run in Wednesday's Enterprise and Friday's Lake Placid News. This video will be archived on the Lake Placid News Facebook page immediately. So as soon as we get done here, anybody can watch it, and hopefully, you know, tell everybody, voters in the town of North Elba, about it. We'll also upload this video to our YouTube page for the Lake Placid News. That'll be tomorrow. So there are other opportunities to watch this. For voting, also on the ballot, there's several state propositions, but there is one local proposition from the town of North Elba. It's for local law number 1, just to remind people. It says, it's very short, it says, shall there be approved and adopted in the town of North Elba, local law number 1 of 2021. That is a local law authorizing games of chance as adopted by the North Elba Town Board on July 13th. Yes or no? Also a reminder, early voting began Saturday, but it runs through Sunday. And that's in Lake Placid at the Mirror Lake Beach House on Parkside Drive. And people they're getting out and they're voting before Election Day, which is great. We don't have to travel in order to vote early anymore, at least in Essex County. And if you live in town of North Elba. So, Tuesday, early voting is from 9 to 5. Wednesday, it's noon to 8. Thursday and Friday, it's 9 to 5. And Saturday and Sunday this weekend, 9 to 2. Election Day, it's Tuesday, November 2nd. Voting held from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at 2 locations. For districts in Saranac Lake and Raybrook, you go to the North Elba Townhouse in Saranac Lake. For districts in and around Lake Placid, the North Elba Town Hall right there on Main Street. And to all of you, the voters, on behalf of the Lake Placid News, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight for this candidate forum. I'm Andy Flynn, editor of the Lake Placid News, and have a good evening.
Thank you.